Now the story of the Jewish exiles who lost everything, and the one man who had no choice but to help them rebuild it. It's the book of Nehemiah. I've been on this kick lately where I've been binging a whole bunch of YouTube videos of digital artists drawing and painting cool things. And I like the way they do it. You never see the artist or their hand or anything. They just video capture their screen, what's happening on their computer. And then when they're done with the whole project, they put the whole video, it might be 40 hours long, on warp speed. And it only takes like 4 minutes to watch the whole thing. It's fascinating to see how they attack it and what they do, and how these brilliant people take something that they can see in their mind's eye and translate it into something that I can see. Everything else aside, that we're going to talk about Nehemiah and all of that stuff and where I'm going with this, isn't that incredible that we have the ability not just to think about things like that, but to use words and images, things we make with our hands, to show other people in our lives, people we love, people we don't know very well yet, to show them what is happening inside of our invisible space? What a blessing that is. What a terrible existence it would be if we didn't have the capacity to articulate and express that in different ways, and to internalize that from other people. Just the human desire to know and be known, and the fact that the way the cosmos is designed allows for that is remarkable. I feel like I get to know these artists by watching them do this work. And a bunch of this stuff, I mean, it's things that I'm not even into. If some of you went and saw it, you'd be like, that's some anime character from something. I don't know what it is. This is cool looking, and I like seeing the way they do the art. But one of the things that I notice as they do this art is that all of these artists are constantly pinch zooming in, incredibly tight, zoom way in, and then they pinch zoom right back out, in, out, all the time. Why are they doing that? Well, I think obviously it's because the whole image is made up of a bunch of little micro images, a bunch of little fine details that have to be done right, but also all those fine details don't add up to a pleasing image that really tells the story if you're not always orienting yourself to the big picture and the point. I would like to think that that is what you and I are doing with how we're attacking books of the Bible. Attacking, that sounded bad. I don't want to attack the Bible. I like the Bible. It's just how we're thinking about it, how we're trying to break these things down. Use whatever language you want. We're pinch zooming in, we're pinch zooming out constantly. And that's why we do the silly little Arrested Development jingle at the beginning of this season. I'm doing that so that we don't get too lost in the details. We're putting that at the beginning of each chapter break as you and I are working through it. And now the story of people who lost everything, and the one man, however I said it. We're putting that there because it's meant to pinch zoom back out and remind you and me that this is the main plot of the story. This is the point. This is what we're working on. Well, in our last conversation, we were in a zoom out cycle looking at the big picture plot structure, not just of Nehemiah, but Ezra and Nehemiah. And I think what we're seeing here is a story that's really about something invisible that's going on. It's about the heart of people. It's about the restoration of a people group. It's about people who are damaged culturally and politically and ethically and morally and religiously. And you've got a few key characters who are trying to fix it. And it's hard because when a people collectively struggle or wane, it takes some pretty big picture thinking and a whole lot of effort to recover that. But it feels like we are getting a story of recovery, even if it's not a perfect one. So you got this story about the recovery of the heart of a people, but it's punctuated by these big events that you could see with your eyes. Like, we got to rebuild the temple. Well, what's that really about? It's about the heart. It's about the people. Well, we got to get the sacrificial system up and running. Cool. Yeah, but what's that really about? Well, it's about the heart. It's about the people. Well, we got to get these walls built. Okay, cool. There's walls. It's awesome. You definitely need them. But the walls are indicative of whether or not these people can pull together and make walls, whether they have enough of a shared vision for things to do it. Well, as we get to Nehemiah chapter 7, the temple's built. And a few generations later, now the wall is built. Now we're into the final question. Can the people be rebuilt? Can this be fixed? Think about the way chapter 6 ended, and I was teasing this the other day. It ended with the returning exiles being sold out by other returning exiles. And why did these other returning exiles who snitched and betrayed and stabbed in the back and sold out and caused all these problems for Nehemiah and the people busting their butts to build the wall, why did they do that? Well, one, we get the distinct impression because they're selfish. That's why they violated the Old Testament norms about collecting usury. And no, not norms. These are commands of God to these people for how they're supposed to treat each other and treat the outsider. They violated all of it, and apparently nobody ever did anything about it until Nehemiah. But they also did this, too, because they had entangling loyalties. They had entangling alliances. And that's the big thing that we need to take with us from chapter 6 to chapter 7 and through the end of the book. Remember how weird it felt back in Ezra, whatever that was, 50, 60 episodes ago, when we were looking at Ezra showing up and getting really mad about people intermarrying, the returning exiles, the Jewish people, intermarrying with their neighbors. And there's this mass divorce, and it felt pretty weird to read it. We really had to game that out for a long time. But now we're starting to get a clearer picture of why, especially in that world at that time, in that setting, that really was a grave betrayal. And to marry into the surrounding pagan cultures was hugely destructive. I mean, it was almost treasonous against this big story and this big plot. I mean, think about the end of chapter 6 here. Let's just hit this one more time. Also in those days, the nobles of Judah were sending many letters to Tobiah, and replies from Tobiah kept coming to them. Okay, gross, as we discussed, but why? For many in Judah were under oath to him. Why? Why on earth would a bunch of people who should only probably, I guess, have loyalty to the crown, a crown that's really been very good to them? I mean, think about it. Cyrus let them go back to Jerusalem and rebuild. Darius confirmed the decisions of Cyrus and even funded the rebuilding and threatened anybody who would stand in opposition to the rebuilding of the temple. Xerxes, for all of his clownery, was, you could give him credit and say that he came around, or he was manipulated and worked over by his far more sophisticated wife to do the right thing, even if he didn't totally understand how he got there. Still, the net result is very favorable to the Jewish people. And then Artaxerxes has a Jew as his right-hand man, as his cupbearer, and he is paying for this wall project. I mean, come on. The Achaemenid kings of Persia have been great. Why would any of these returning Jews be swearing an oath to some sort of noble from another captive society of Persia? It just doesn't make sense. Well, okay, why'd they do that? For many in Judah were under oath to him, since he was son-in-law to Shechaniah, son of Arah, and his son Jehohanan had married the daughter of Meshullam, son of Berechiah. Well, there we are. This is an entangled mess of intermarriage. This is exactly what Ezra ran into before. And I think, am I wrong in this? I think Meshullam gets mentioned on the list of people who are building things, didn't he? Well, Shemaiah did. Next to them, I'm in Nehemiah 3 in the big build montage part. Next to them, Zadok, son of Immer, made repairs opposite the house. Next to him, Shemaiah, son of Shechaniah, the guard at the east gate, made repairs. And I think Meshullam is on this as well. Bear with me. Scanning. Back here at the beginning, fish gate, verse 3, Nehemiah 3, during the build montage. The fish gate was rebuilt by the sons of Hassenaah. They laid its beams and put its doors and bolts and bars in place. Meremoth, the son of Uriah, the son of Hekaz, repaired the next section. Here it is. Next to him, Meshullam, son of Berechiah, the son of Meshezabel, made repairs. And next to him, Zadok, son of Bana, also made repairs. Okay, these are the same guys, right? Okay, back to Nehemiah chapter 6. For many in Judah were under an oath to him, since he was son-in-law to Shechaniah, son of Arah, and his son Johanan had married the daughter of Meshullam, son of Berechiah. These are the same guys. I mean, I think these are the same guys. That's what I mean to say. I mean, it looks like these are the same very specifically named people. So they're doing good things in rebuilding the wall, but they're also tangled up in these oaths. These are conflicting loyalties. And so on the one hand, they're building the wall. On the other hand, they're selling it out. They're like Milo from Catch 22, who I referenced the other day. On the one hand, he's serving his own squadron, getting them delicious food and flying missions with them. On the other hand, because of some entangling business arrangements he made, he had to bomb his own squadron in the novel Catch-22 set during World War II. The point is this: these people's hearts are divided because of entangling alliances and marriage deals. Don't think about marriage the way you think about marriage now. Could you have an entangling marriage alliance now? Sure. But here we're talking about contractual obligations producing heirs for multiple houses. And these heirs that are being produced for these houses are partially inheritors of Jewish houses and partially inheritors of Samaritan or Arab or any other, it doesn't matter who, but an outsider house. What happens over time? Well, what happens over time is the values of both of those grandparental houses are expected to be handed down to their grandson heirs who will one day run their houses. And an outsider to the Jewish thing, they're not going to want an heir who's raised with the cultural expectations of the Jews. They're going to expect their values to be represented there as well. This is deeply entangling and problematic, and this split household with split loyalties with Meshullam, son of Berechiah, are both building the walls and supporting the people who are trying to destroy the walls. It sounds like modern geopolitics, and even, frankly, kind of sounds like the decision-making that we at times make in our country, where we're defending one country with taxpayer dollars that bought rockets against another country that are firing rockets with taxpayer dollars that we also bought. This isn't the most efficient or smart or best, probably. And the same way you can hear me describe that and it makes your blood boil a little bit and it's obviously stupid, so Nehemiah can look at these entangling relationships and be like, this is obviously stupid, and it makes my blood boil. So we get to the end of 6, pinch zoomed in on these little details, these relationships, etc. But as we pivot to 7, we pinch zoom right back out to the big picture of, okay, we just saw a case study of why this is not going to work. This has always been our mistake and our problem. This is why we need to be a people set apart at this time. This is why we guard the boundaries of who are the recipients of this inheritance and who is not. There is a reform that has not been finished here that needs to be finished. That is what the attentive reader will feel coming out of 6 and into 7. Both Ezra and Nehemiah are looking at the situation with these entangling alliances at the end of 6 and saying, like, there's a case study right there. This is why we can't have nice things. We still have to fix this, or all the wall building and all the temple building ever isn't going to matter a bit. And you can feel the pivot from that pinch zoom in at the end of 6 that I was just reading you to the pinch zoom out at the beginning of 7:1. After the wall had been rebuilt and I had set the doors in place, the gatekeepers and the singers and the Levites were appointed. Okay, so we're going right back out to stuff that is about building up the people. I put in charge of Jerusalem my brother Hananiah. Oh, we'll break that down later, but that's the guy, along with Hananiah, the commander of the citadel. All right, we're to big picture stuff. We're into maintenance mode now. We're into, here's your republic, now how do you keep it kind of questions. Pinch zoom in at the end of 6 so that we can pinch zoom out at the beginning of 7. And now we're into the final adventure, which is, how do we fix the mess that the people have made over ill-advised oaths they have sworn? How do we fix that once and for all so that we can get the people on their feet and keep this thing that we have built? Final act of Ezra and Nehemiah to come. I'm Matt. This is the 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast. Let's do this again soon.